Hello everyone, this is Nocturne, and welcome back to my Minecraft LP. Minecrafting with Mods. A temporary title, I suppose. Anyway, welcome back. We've got a bit to cover today, and I think we're going to pick up more or less where we left off last time with rubber. We've got a whole bunch of other things I want to get going today in this episode, but first off, I thought I would go ahead and show you guys how we are going to get rubber, which is going to be a very important component in turning these temporary blocks into the machines that we are going to need soon enough. I've spent a little time off screen doing a little more mining and whatnot. Unfortunately, I did die a few times, once to lava, so brand new armor. Fortunately, I was able to replace most of it with items from treasure chests and whatnot. So that's cool. But I guess first off, let's get the door slamming in our face and step right out here and show you guys the beginnings of my rubber tree farm. I went ahead and got this started going off camera because it can take a while for those of you who know about these things to actually get a nice rubber supply going, so I went ahead and set this up. Went ahead and got a bit of a reed/sugarcane farm going. And over there you can see I kind of started a very basic cactus farm. Anyway, we've got these rubber trees planted. You may notice that I stripped all the leaves off of them. This is because sometimes these little spots up here appear underneath the leaves, and that's really just the best way to go about taking care of that, to see them. Now, what are these spots? These are resin spots. As I explained last episode, the way they look like in the default textures is a little square, and here we've got these big ones here. Now, what do we do with these spots? Well, first off, we need to make ourselves a tree tap, so we can go ahead and actually collect some of the sticky resin. And you get a really cool sound effect if you've got those turned on in your config file. And this is sticky resin. What we need to do is go ahead and turn that into rubber. But first, I wanted to go ahead and actually grow a couple of these on screen for you and show you how that works. It's really simple, just like you would grow any other tree. Now, the only reason I am chopping these down is because this one actually had no resin spots on it, which is entirely possible to happen. So if you do have that happening to you, don't worry about it. It's not a total waste, and you can actually go ahead and do something with the rubber wood. With the proper machine, you can actually get rubber out of the rubber wood itself. Huh. I think the Noc'Craft gods are angry. I wonder who's been messing with Noc'Craft on the server. Oh well, let's grow a tree. Ta-da! Very simple. And as I explained, I think in episode 2, you can indeed use the sickle to chop the leaves down, which is just awesome. Oh, I was about to say, did we get none here too? Anyway, one thing else to mention about the resin spots, if we go ahead and tap this one, what's really cool about this texture pack is you actually have this nice little hole here. On the default texture, you'll have just the same square, but it'll go kind of a dark black, and it blends in pretty well with the tree. Now, the thing to mention about the resin spots, though, is that you could, if you wanted to, right-click and tap this again and get a little bit more resin out of it, but that runs the risk of drying it out, and no more resin will come back. But if you leave it alone, over time it will respawn, and you can come back and tap it again and again. There are actually two phases of regeneration. One's sort of a lightish orange color in the default texture, and the other one's a darkish orange red. The dark red means it's fully come back, and you can go ahead and just safely tap that. You can tap the lighter one, but you don't get as much resin out of it. And that's really all there is to say about that. So, what do we do with the resin to get ourselves some rubber? I'm so glad you asked. Oops. I wanted to keep that one. You guys see how useful these canvas bags are? Yeah, I unfortunately lost my old one too in the lava. That was painful, losing that. Anyway, what to do with all the sticky resin that I've collected so far? Well, first off, what I'm about to show you is probably the least efficient way of getting rubber. So I don't want to go and use all of it. And actually, considering we're using an iron furnace, let's be efficient with our coal use as well. And go ahead and stick it right in the furnace. Okay, nice little sync glitch. Anyway, you can smelt your sticky resin directly into rubber 1 for 1. And like I said, this is the most inefficient way of doing it. It's a good way to do it, and the only way to do it when you're starting off. But once we start building some extra machines, we'll go ahead and show you, I'll go ahead and show you how that works out. Now, to build some of the machines, the first one we're probably going to want to make is either the extractor or the macerator to go ahead and start working on all the ores we've been piling up here. I've just been letting them collect because, like I said, I'd like to double my ores rather than just kind of start wasting them by doing a single smelt like vanilla. So I think the very first thing I want to do is actually make a macerator. But to make a macerator, let me go ahead and pull that up for you guys. We're going to need a machine block and an electronic circuit, because this is a machine, so we're going to need that going. Now, a machine block is pretty simple. It looks like a furnace, and it looks like you're making it with iron, except this is refined iron. Now, how do you get refined iron? You can do this crazy thing with equivalent exchange, or you can do it the normal way, the original way I should say, and just go ahead and smelt regular iron into refined iron. And there really is no extra efficient way of doing this, so I'm going to go ahead and get some of that cooking up too. And let's see. Let's just go ahead and get them both since we wanted to make 2 machines. Although, because these are electronic machines, we're actually going to need power. And as I've mentioned a few times in past episodes, a really great way of getting that going is with a very simple generator. Unfortunately, NEI is picking up the word generator in the fuel box usage right there, but what we're looking for is right here. Generator is some refined iron, a battery, and an iron furnace. Or if you want to, you can go ahead and use the machine block, but it's 3 refined iron here and 5 iron for this. Or you can just go ahead and do the 8 for the machine block this way. Now, since we're kind of low on items, on iron, without going and wasting some of the ores we already have going, I'm going to go ahead and use the machine block recipe here. Now, the battery, on the other hand, is actually not too difficult of a recipe. And that is a bit of tin, some redstone, and something we're going to end up needing a lot of here in the future. Piece of copper cable. Because Industrial Craft is pretty much your electricity mod, one of the original electricity mods. There is also the universal electricity mod out there, which does its own thing and actually uses more standard terms. Hey, Keshem.
How's it going?
Not bad. Just teaching the people how to make batteries. Exciting stuff, I know.
That's good.
Anyway, so batteries are going to require copper cables. So, how do you get copper cables? Pretty simple. You take some smelted copper ingots and just place them in a line, and you get some uninsulated copper. Okay, that should be a decent amount to get going, and far more than we've got rubber for. So what you do to get your copper cable is you can use this recipe and simply get copper cables this way. Rubber and uninsulated copper cables. Excellent. Now, we've got our refined iron. Good, good. Go ahead and make up a few machine blocks to get going. And now for the battery. But since I know I'm going to be needing batteries a lot in the future, and copper cables and all that kind of crazy stuff in the future, I'm not really crazy about having to open up the Minium Stones crafting table and doing it by hand every single time. So what I think I'd like to do is make a new crafting table from Red Power. This one is called the Project Table, and you put it together just like this. Little wood on the side, stone on the top, crafting table in the middle, and a chest on the bottom gets you the project table. Now, this is a really, really great crafting table. Let me go ahead and show you. You've got your crafting table up here, which is cool, but it's actually got a little bit of internal storage down here. You can actually keep things in here, walk off, go do something else, come back, and it's all still right here. Now let me go ahead and grab a few of the things we're going to need to make up. Yeah, let's go ahead and use this one. Yeah, that's the IC2 tin. The other tin has come from treasure chests and whatnot. So, things we need for making batteries. So, tin on the sides, like we saw, little redstone on top. Nope, redstone in the middle, and a copper cable on top gets you a battery. Now, another awesome thing about the project table, you notice I just closed out, didn't finish crafting? It's still here, and it saves it. And also, this little internal buffer serves as a nice little way of holding your extra items, but also when you decide to go ahead and pull something out of the crafting window, it uses this as its resource and not the crafting recipe itself, which lets you just do a whole bunch of crafting over and over without having to actually place each individual item. And now you've got pretty much a permanent crafting recipe, which is how project tables used to work in the beginning. But in the latest release, which came out a few months back, LRM went and added something new. And you guys may remember episode 1, where I mentioned these indigo flowers were very useful for something Red Power related. Well, this is what I was talking about. Go ahead and turn it into some indigo dye, combine them with paper, and you get something called a blank plan. So now that we have blank plans, what do we do with them? Well, they are made for the project table, and if you go ahead and place them in this little box up here, in my texture pack, the icon doesn't show up until you place the plan, but you'll have the box down here in default. Now you can go ahead and click this button, and you've just created yourself an actual plan. The rechargeable battery plan. And it remembers all the recipe, all the ingredients you need for this particular recipe. And now you can go and take it out, and you can go ahead and clear the crafting table. And when you go and put it back in, it creates ghost images of the recipe you need. And you can go ahead and craft more without having to even place the recipe down ever again. And you can go ahead and store them right here in the project table if you want, or I think I might go ahead and put a little box here next to it for us to use in the future. Now what's really cool too is when you use the project plan, say you're missing tin for these batteries. Uh-oh, they turn red. So it lets you know what you're missing when you run low on supplies. Now, 2 batteries is plenty for what we need right now, so I'm going to go ahead and just take that plan back out. So, first off, let's go ahead and make us the generator. And as you remember, battery, machine block, and a plain old furnace. I believe I have exactly one left over here. Excellent. And just like you saw, we have ourselves our very first generator. This is going to be our very first power generation, and I think I'm just going to go ahead and place it, let's see, I'm going to do this here, that there, and that there. So I think for now, that will do plenty. And the generator, power generation as the name suggests, this one runs on anything that fuels a furnace. So if you wanted to, we can go ahead and place a bit of coal in here. It starts burning that up, and we are generating power. Now, the nice thing about the generator is it has this little internal buffer here, this little internal battery, which is probably why you had to craft it with a battery, which makes a lot of sense. And once it goes ahead and burns up all the coal, we should have one full internal buffer. Now, what's really cool too is once you fill the internal buffer, it won't use the fuel until it needs it. So you can go ahead and just leave this thing full of coal, and when it needs power, it'll pull it out for you. Okay, so we've got power. We've got ourselves an awesome new crafting table. Next up, I think it's good time to go ahead and build ourselves our first real machine, the macerator. Since we've only got enough for the one more machine block, which, by the way, if you didn't want the machine block, you can go and uncraft it real quick like that. Since we're going to want more iron to make more machine blocks, because these are kind of the base building block for all the IC2 machines, we're going to want to be able to get some more iron, and being down to our last ingot, we're going to want to go ahead and start working through these ores. So first things first, like I just said, the macerator. For this, we're going to need a little bit of flint. I believe we need a bit more smooth stone, the machine block, and of course, the electronic circuit. Now, for an electronic circuit, this thing is a little expensive when it comes to copper and rubber. So I'm pretty sure we've got enough to go ahead and get through this. Although I just remembered, I believe we're one refined iron short. So I'm going to go ahead and have to just burn one of these up real quick. Let me go ahead and get that going for you guys, and I will be right back. Should only be a few seconds. Alright, got ourselves the refined iron. Kind of funny, I forgot about that. But now, we've got our refined iron. Alright, I was good to go from the beginning. Silly me. It's actually redstone on both sides. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and make ourselves a plan for this one, because these, like the machine blocks, very, very important for many, many things in IC2. So I'm going to go ahead and grab one of these and get going on our macerator. So we just got a little bit of flint across the top, machine block in the middle, and bam. We have ourselves a macerator. So I'm going to go ahead and just plop this guy down right here. And the great thing about the generator is that if you place it next to a machine that requires power, it will instantly power it. If this didn't have power, this little lightning bolt here would be gray or black, and you wouldn't be able to do anything with it. So as you can see, it transferred a little bit of power over. Now for these other machines back here, we're going to need to do a little something different. And that's going to require a bit of copper cable. Or if we wanted to, we could use a little bit higher grade cable, but for our purposes now and for what we need it for, copper will do plenty. Because just like real electricity, you need wires to make it go somewhere else. So, copper cables. These are technically tier 2 cables in industrial craft. These are low voltage. Low voltage in this case meaning 32 EU per tick. Now, if that sounds a little confusing and sort of WTF, let me take a few minutes to explain. In industrial craft, they measure power in EU, or energy units. And Sorry. The way energy is transferred is per tick, and a tick, in this case, is referring to actually the game engine itself. Every second, 20 ticks occur inside the code, and on each one of them, the game goes through and its entire loop of decisions to find out what should happen. Should this torch give off particles? Should it start raining? How light is this block? Can a creeper spawn here? Did he just open a chest? What's in the chest? All that kind of stuff. All that happens every tick, 20 times a second. Now, when it comes to power, like I said, things travel per tick because that's just the way it works. And low voltage will end up transferring 32 energy units per tick. And that just so happens to be exactly what a generator outputs, which is perfect for our uses at the moment. There are lower grade cables. There's the ultra low voltage. There's also gold cables and glass fiber cables, which each one transfers its own energy supply. And again, these are things I will be covering as we come to them. Now, for those of you familiar with mods, you're probably screaming at me right now for what I just did, but forgive me, I don't exactly have the resources yet to make this correct. For those of you who don't know the mods, when it comes to copper cables, even insulated, which technically you always want to use insulated cables just because of energy loss, which is another thing Industrial Craft has taken into account, and what I'm talking about right here with this. As energy travels block to block, cable to cable, there is a percent of the energy that comes from the source is drained, is lost. The way it works on copper cables is for every 5 cables it has to pass through in the entire system, you lose, I'm going to say, I'll have to check the numbers when I'm editing up this episode, but I want to say it's about 10%. Go ahead and check the bottom corner right about now, and you'll get the actual number. Anyway, you really don't want to take these more than 5 blocks, otherwise energy loss starts becoming, well, a problem. But again, for the moment, because we don't really have any other way of doing this, I'm just going to go ahead and run them all the way. Although, one other important thing to mention, even though these down here aren't connected to anything, they do count as part of the cable system. So this being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 blocks long, that's actually enough to suffer the energy loss twice. So I think because we don't need these blocks just yet, I'm going to go ahead and knock them off, just to save us a little bit of energy loss. Because the way it works is it simply calculates how many are in the system, and then that's the amount of energy you get throughout the whole line. So even this one right here would be suffering the 10 block plus energy loss. Anyway, on to something a little more exciting. Using our very first machine. Now let me go ahead and grab up a little coal here. Half a stack should be good for now. Just enough to get us a bit of power running, because we're going to start macerating. And the very first thing I want to start macerating is, of course, our iron ore. Just place it up here on the top, and you guys should be able to hear it's grinding away. Little progress bar right here. And if we give it just a little bit of time, our first ore turns into 2 iron dust. Excellent. So 1 ore equals 2 dust, and if we go ahead and place it in here with the iron furnace, takes a little more time, and we get ourselves 1 iron per dust. I know I explained this a few episodes back, but I just think this is really kind of cool and an amazing thing that mods have done for the game. If you take a little time to set up a little bit of infrastructure, extra income. Oh yeah. So now that we got that going, I'm going to take a little time off screen to go ahead and get a whole lot of stuff going. Probably not a whole lot, but get ourselves some more iron, some more refined iron, a few more machine blocks, and I'll come back when I'm ready to craft up a few more machines and upgrade these bad boys here, and maybe even toss down an extractor. And hopefully I'll be able to come up with enough resources that we can go ahead and make our very first energy storage device, because while the generator does have its internal buffer, as you saw, it only stores enough for one piece of coal. And while that's working great for just our one macerator, what happens when we turn this entire line of machines on all at once? It's going to drain things pretty significantly, because every machine here requires its own individual power supply. Anyway, I'll probably talk a little more about that when I come back, so let me go ahead and take care of this off camera, and I'll see you guys in just a few. Okay, so spent some time, did a little bit of upgrading, added a couple more macerators and a couple more iron furnaces, but these are really just placeholders for now. And unfortunately, it looks like I did a lot more talking than I thought I did, and we're getting kind of close to the end of the episode. But before we end off, I wanted to go ahead and upgrade these and at least add down one extractor and explain to you guys why it's so important to have one. So while we go ahead and let our ores macerate up here, we should have plenty of power to go ahead and take care of these next pieces. Now, one thing to note, which may or not be entirely important just yet, but since we're starting to get into the machines, I feel it's worth mentioning. The iron furnace is probably one of the last furnaces, the last machines that you want to actually pick up with a pick. There are special tools that come with the various mods that you're going to want to use to pick them up, otherwise you run the risk of, well, we'll just say bad things happening, and leave it at that for now. But for the moment, I wanted to go ahead and upgrade these bad boys right here, because this has been something I've been wanting to do for a long time, because I'm a little tired of throwing all my coal away on these furnaces. So, what are we going to be making? Well, we've got our wonderful power generation going on over here, so I figured why not upgrade to the electric furnace. Oh yes. This bad boy right here. Let's see if I have any copper cables left for that one. Good. Running really low on copper cables. I'm glad I had just enough left. I actually had to smelt up a little bit more rubber, unfortunately. But anyway, the electric furnace. Just go ahead and plop it down here on our power lines. And no, I did not want that, thank you. Inventory tweaks is sometimes a little gets confused. It's all good. Now we've got our 4 electric furnaces. This is probably way more than I need and way more than our generator is going to be easily able to supply. But so far, all our machines are keeping up pretty good. You can see their internal buffers have starting to store things up. And you will notice you do have a slot down here like the old furnace. You can more or less ignore that now. It does have uses. I've never needed it though. So let's go ahead and actually get going smelting up our things. And you guys might notice it's a little bit faster than the iron furnace. And you'd be right. These things are awesome. No more coal wasted. No more trying to calculate how much you need. Oh, and this is what I was afraid of. See them blinking? Means we have overtaxed our system. We have way more power going out than we've got coming in from this one little generator here. He can't keep up. So I'm going to go ahead and take these guys out. Waste a little bit of power, but fortunately because it's power and not coal, I guess technically it is coal since it's a coal generator, but I'm going to go ahead and let that go, and I will work on that here in a second. We're going to need to do something else to go ahead and make sure we don't run into that again. But first, since we are running a little short on time, let's go ahead and craft ourselves up the extractor. You may notice I have a whole bunch of tree taps in my inventory. I'm not about to go crazy and tap all those rubber trees out there. No, no, no. We actually need these to make ourselves an extractor. And I got that backwards. Awesome. So, with the fact that we make these with tree taps, I'm pretty sure you guys have a real good idea what these are for. Yes, you are correct. And for the moment, he's going to live down here, but since I'm out of copper cables, I'm just going to sit this guy right here. I'm going to go grab a few things out of this chest right here, and I'm going to stick these guys in the extractor. And now he's going to start running. And these are the tier 1 machines, so they're all kind of slow. And if this looks kind of fast to you, great. You're going to love these tier 1 machines. But for those of you who know the tier 3 machines, this seems like it takes a little while. But anyway, done just enough talking. You guys can now see what I meant by smelting your resin being the most inefficient way of getting rubber, because you just saw one resin extracted gives you 3. Yes, 3 rubber. It is amazing. So I think before we go ahead and close out this episode, I wanted to go ahead and work on a little power storage device, which will help us out, especially when it comes to running all these machines all at once. Now for IC2, this is called the Bat Box. This is your low voltage power storage unit. It's really pretty easy. You just need 3 batteries, a copper cable, and everything else, some form of plank. And you'll see NEI here cycling through all the valid planks you could possibly ever need. So, let's go ahead and grab, I believe, 2 more batteries, since we had 1 extra from before. Ooh. Ouch. But, not to fear, we've got our extractor running crazy right now. Just toss these in here, grab ourselves another battery. We're going to need one of those. And now, grab ourselves a crafting table, because I think... Nope. Needed to grab the other battery. That's right. Now, these are nice. They stack until you charge them. And if you wanted to, you could go ahead and stick it in here and it would charge up, but I'm not going to do that because sometimes a partially charged battery messes up the crafting recipe. And by the by, that's what this slot down here is for, is if you wanted to use a battery to power your machine. But again, now that we're hooked up to a power line, completely unnecessary. So, let's go ahead and get ourselves our bat box crafted up right here. Just like you saw, like that, we have ourselves a bat box. Now, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to place this down just yet because I don't have any way of correctly manipulating it. For that, I am going to need the industrial craft wrench, and for that I'm going to need to make up some bronze. And that's going to take a little longer than we have left in this episode, so unfortunately I'm going to have to call things here. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope I didn't blather on too long, and especially for those of you who do know the mods, I hope I didn't bore you too much. And for those of you who don't know the mods, I hope this was a pretty good introduction to the Industrial Craft Machine Tier 1. Anyway, this has been Nocturne. As I said before, I hope you really enjoyed the episode, and I will see you guys again next time, where we're going to go ahead and continue expanding out here. Probably work on the power generation system I wanted out here, because, again, tired of wasting my coal, and maybe even work on a little power generation for the roof. Anyway, catch you guys later.